Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief that the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers.
And welcome back. As Ravn suspends all service during this coronavirus pandemic, people in rural Alaska are now wondering who will step in to help once air travel resumes. KTVA's Heather Hensey tells us who might fill that role.
Nearly 300 miles off the coast of western Alaska, the island of St. Paul is home to thousands of migratory birds and fur seals. Fewer than 500 people live in this remote community that has recently been left without air service in the ongoing coronavirus pandemic.
Well, right now, I think it's a unique situation where it eliminates one of the avenues or pathways for the virus to get here. So it's kind of, you could say, almost a blessing in disguise.
Penn Air served St. Paul until 2018 when the company filed for bankruptcy. Then Ravn took over. When the coronavirus reached Alaska, the cancellations began. That forced Ravn Air to file for bankruptcy as well, leaving more than 100 communities without reliable service. St. Paul City Manager Phil Zavadil says the island is fortunate only passenger service was affected.
We still have regular scheduled cargo service via ACE Air Cargo, and then we get about every month to 6 weeks we get a freighter out of Seattle that brings dry goods and larger items as well.
Without regularly scheduled flights, Zavadil says people in town who need to get out for medical appointments are forced to schedule a charter, which can cost up to $20,000. The Ravn suspension has also left passengers in other villages with costly alternatives.
Quite frankly, I don't think that's sustainable for people in our villages.
Paul Ivanoff in USALAKLEET says Ravn was their way of connecting smaller communities on a milk run. People now have to fly farther to get to Anchorage.
The extra cost associated with having to go through Nome rather than from Stebbins, St. Michael, Koyuk, Shaktoolik. Those are the 4 other villages that USALAKLEET serve. That's really how much it costs round trip extra. It's about $450 for each community to Nome versus $120 if you're to go, let's say, from Shaktoolik to Anchorage.
Other carriers around Alaska are stepping in to keep these communities connected. Grant Aviation Vice President Dan Kniezek and President Rob Kelly say their company is now running at full capacity, trying to meet the need.
For us, to be honest, the biggest gap was bypass mail. The way it is basically our bypass mail doubled.
Good example, this last Friday, a typical big day for us for mail is 40,000 pounds. Company-wide, we moved over 100,000 pounds and 87,000 pounds out of Bethel just in one day.
They've been able to hire some of the Ravn staff who were laid off and are growing their business slowly. They're not immune to the economic impact of the coronavirus, though, and have had to cut back on the number of daily flights to and from Kenai. But Grant has added routes in rural Alaska where Ravn was essential. Villages like Makoriak and communities in the Aleutian and Pribilof Islands.
And they all lost the direct Anchorage route, and same with St. Paul. When we connected St. George people with St. Paul and Dutch, now none of them had any connection to Anchorage. So we've been working with Alaska Airlines, and they've announced a Cold Bay flight so we can feed them the passengers from like the Dutch Harbor Hub and St. Paul and everything directly into Cold Bay and run shuttle flights between Cold Bay and Dutch in order to, to provide that connection.
They believe that by the time travel restrictions are lifted, most of Ravn's communities will be well served by Grant Aviation and the other carriers.
That's our customers, and if we don't take care of them and make sure that their needs are met, then we lose our customers.
Rural residents still aren't sure what will happen to Ravn.
That's the $90 million question, is can they come back?
While St. Paul waits for a long-term solution, people are looking at the silver lining of living off the mainland.
Yeah, we are remote, but we have a lot of benefits that other communities don't, with wildlife, the environment, in this time, the isolation, it's working to our benefit, hopefully keeping the virus from reaching our shoreline.
A shoreline that's protected by the ocean they'll need to cross when it's safe to travel again. Heather Hinsey, KTVA 11 News.
Tremendous logistical challenges in a unique state. Great report from Heather Hinsey for sure.